Hi everyone, it's Chris here from OPMC, and today I want to tell you a little bit about the options that you have available as a plugin or app developer for e-commerce platforms, and what we do and what we've chosen and decided to prioritize. So there are plenty of platforms out there. To jump to the chase, I am going to focus more on Shopify and WooCommerce in this video because those are the two main platforms for us, but of course there are plenty of other ones too. Especially during COVID, we've had a massive explosion in e-commerce across the board. You know, people are buying things more online, but also the software development space is really heated up. There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of really exciting things going on. So, you know, you have businesses that were previously just website providers who have expanded into e-commerce, and businesses that are established in e-commerce software that have really taken off. Now, aside from your Shopify's and your WooCommerce providers, there's other ones like, you know, Wix and Squarespace and Magento, BigCommerce, and you know, we've had experience across all of those, but our focus is primarily Shopify and WooCommerce, and when it's not, we also do a fair amount of Magento development too. Now, when we're looking at Shopify and WooCommerce, I think that there are, you know, some stark differences between the two from a development perspective. Notably, if you develop for Shopify, you will be hosting that software yourself, but it is proprietary. So when you're hosting the code, the customer does not have access to it. So if they wanted to modify your code or anything like that, they can't do that. There's no option to be able to do that. So there is a consideration there that you need to host your own software, which has its own requirements and considerations. On the other hand, with WooCommerce, it's a completely different model, which is open source, and per the philosophy of WordPress itself, anything that's developed for WooCommerce, the customer can take the code when they buy it or they download your plugin, and they can do a number of things with it as part of that license. So one of those being redistributing it. So, you know, I suppose the potential downside to WooCommerce is that you make, or the risk, I suppose, is that you make a plugin, you sell it, and, you know, people, you know, for example, they need 3 copies of it and they only pay for 1. So these are the sort of potential risks you might face. But overall, I'd say that's not such a big issue. There are a small percentage of people who do that, a small percentage of questionable websites out there who redistribute plugins. But on the whole, if you have a great product and provide a great service, then people will keep coming back and you can build a subscription business. For us personally, obviously with Shopify, you have to be on the App Store. For WooCommerce, you have the option of the WooCommerce.com marketplace and other platforms. Currently, we are only focused on the WooCommerce.com marketplace. We're not on any other third-party marketplaces. That's an option for us, but it's not really the priority at this stage for us. It just means more administration, and that's not something that we have time for at the moment. So aside from that, looking at the experience between the two, you know, I believe that a challenge with WooCommerce is the customer expectations. So customers do expect that you will be paying, especially and particularly with pricing, that they will pay an annual fee, and that annual fee should not be very much. On average, plugin prices are less than $100 US per year. So there is the potential that your scalability, unless you have an amazing, super popular plugin from the get-go, your scalability is going to be limited. Okay, if you're making something from scratch that no one knows about, it is an uphill battle, so you do need to do your research in that regard. So whereas with Shopify on the pricing front, what I've found is that people are much more open to paying a monthly fee, And so you can easily earn 5 times more on Shopify than you would on WooCommerce, because, you know, instead of charging say $100 per year, or well, the average is more like $79 per year, you're actually charging $20 to $30, $40 US a month for a good quality app. So there is a difference in expectations there. It is a slightly different market, and so I think that that's something to consider. However, because we are a leading developer on the WooCommerce.com marketplace over an extended period of time, mind you, we find it quite easy to go about our business on that platform. But most definitely another issue or a consideration for you for WooCommerce and Shopify is what cut of the earnings you get, because that's going to impact how much you can invest in future development, how many new developers you can bring on. That's definitely a consideration for us. And, you know, how much are you earning in recurring income per plugin, per hour spent on development. So, you know, we divide it by the number of hours spent or the number of developers that we have, and so, you know, we do want to look at maximizing those results. So one of the things about that not only is expectation about a higher annual price for some of these Shopify apps, but also there is the challenge, I suppose, of the commissions. So one of the fundamental differences between Shopify and WooCommerce is that WooCommerce itself is actually free as a WordPress product, and whereas Shopify, you're typically paying a monthly fee for having an online store. Obviously, when I say WooCommerce is free, I'm not taking into consideration your hosting costs and that sort of thing. But from the perspective of Automatic, who's the commercial arm of WordPress, who manages the WooCommerce product, versus Shopify, who manage the Shopify product, I think the big difference there between them is that all of the income from the, I suppose you could say, the software or the hosting of your e-commerce store with Shopify, that goes directly to Shopify. Whereas with WooCommerce, you can have hundreds and thousands of hosting providers who charge the customer to host their WooCommerce website, and whereas Shopify takes all the income it receives from every customer. So it's like, you know, Shopify is hosting the websites of all its customers, whereas WooCommerce is only hosting a small percentage of the sites out on the web. So because of that, the WooCommerce commission, which was previously 60% gross, has only just been recently increased to 70%. However, with the fee structure that WooCommerce has, that the actual net commission can be considerably less. Look at Shopify. They have recently completely changed the game with their product, and as I said, in WooCommerce's defense, Shopify does host all its websites, so they receive automatically a huge amount of income from that. They have recently made a change to their partner platform so that you receive 100% of all earnings under $1 million annually. So I'm going to say for the majority of people, they're not going to be earning $1 million annually, and certainly if you're starting out, you're not going to be earning $1 million annually. You have to do a lot of work to achieve those kind of numbers. So what it means is, right off the bat, you can earn 100% of all the income that comes through your sales on Shopify from day one. Whereas it's not the case with WooCommerce. However, WooCommerce has recently changed their agreement such that there's no penalty to sell your plugin on other websites. So you can, if you're approved as a partner on WooCommerce, you can get your product launched on on the WooCommerce.com marketplace. But if you also sell it on other platforms or also sell it on your own website, there's no penalty for that. So your gross commission is still 70%, whether you exclusively sell on WooCommerce.com or whether you sell on other platforms such as your own website as well. So I think that does provide some flexibility. I believe that WooCommerce should be more competitive and increase their commission to a gross of 80%. I feel that that would be more commensurate given that support is on the development company and the majority of the work is done by the developer, in my opinion. Now, aside from that, I think it's important for scalability when you look at Shopify versus WooCommerce of the software and where it's hosted. So as I said, with WooCommerce, you just need to make the software. You don't need to host it. It gets hosted on the customer's website. So because of that, there's no infrastructure costs for you to host anything. However, when you're on Shopify, you do need to host and you do need to know what you're doing. You need to have a secure server that's compliant with Shopify's requirements, and you should really have someone who's managing that really well to ensure that it's secure and also that it's scalable, because if your Shopify business takes off, you're going to want to make sure that everything's running reliably, right? You don't want to have downtime by some itty-bitty provider who goes down on a Friday night and goes offline for a while. Because if your Shopify hosted app is not 100% uptime, the problem that you're going to have is that your customers can't use your product. So your app is basically disabled, which isn't good, right? So I think that that's a really important consideration. That's something that we have made a significant investment in. We have a hosting business, so that's a big part of our company. So that's not an issue for us to do that. But if you're just a developer, you will need to look seriously at that and make a proper investment in that upfront, because you don't want to be in a position where you're losing customers, you have attrition because you don't have a reliable service level with your app. I think that that's pretty big consideration. One of the other things from a business perspective is Shopify pays out twice a month. So when you're starting out, obviously the cash flow is going to be important, right? So Shopify pays out twice a month, whereas WooCommerce pays out once a month. The WooCommerce one, they used to pay out on the 30th of the month after the month that you earned. So if you had your income from 1st to 31st of January, you wouldn't get paid for that until the end of February, which is a pretty big deal. Whereas now they, as part of their agreement, they pay by the 10th of the month. Personally, I'm not sure whether I have a major opinion about what's better, payouts twice a month or once a month. It doesn't make as big a difference to us, but I think for the majority of people it would be helpful to get paid twice a month. We know that both platforms are investing heavily in their programs, and obviously through the fact that Shopify has actually made it the first $1 million income per year, 100% commission, they're serious about their development community. It is worth noting though that with WooCommerce, they are making significant investments in the community too. They have primarily, it's been recently in the growth of their community, with a huge growth in the developers that are on the platform. I do think that WooCommerce can invest substantially more in their partner program. I think that if the resources that are provided to partners and the services provided to partners were improved, I think that would be a big difference. Not a problem for us, to the offering when we compare it to Shopify. So WooCommerce has made a lot of improvements here and they are working on it. but I think that Shopify has a better resource and service at this point in that regard. Aside from that, one of the things that you're going to be looking at is how much competition is on the marketplace. Quality of your product is going to be a big part, and the features of the product are going to be a major part of determining how popular your plugin is, right? Or your app. So if it's not very good and it doesn't have much exposure, it doesn't have many customers, doesn't have many reviews, then it's not going to be featured very highly, right? So with regards to WooCommerce at the time of making this video, I think WooCommerce had about 700 plugins on their marketplace, whereas on the WooCommerce.com marketplace, whereas Shopify has thousands, over 5,000, possibly as much as 6,000 now, I'm not sure. So you're going to be in I think that there's a bigger opportunity right now with Shopify, but I think that you have to do some work to stand out, because Shopify is still many more apps, right? So whereas WooCommerce, there might be one other person who has the same plugin as you, on Shopify there might be 15 people who have the same type of product. With that said, the people who have really great products can see some substantial growth, and it is indicative the fact that they have a program where they're offering no commission on the first $1 million US, because it tells you about how much some of these partners are earning, right? I think there's on both platforms. It may be that you have a preference anyway. You might already be familiar with developing for one of those platforms, or it may be that you're philosophically aligned with one of them. You may be more aligned with the open source way of doing things, so WooCommerce will be better suited to you, or you may be more aligned to Shopify, where you're able to earn more and scale faster. I'd love to hear your comments on this topic, and as always, if you liked this video, press the thumbs up. If you didn't like it, press the thumbs down. And please, if you'd like to see more videos like this, if you'd like us to generate more content like this, please click the subscribe bell so that you'll be automatically updated when we launch more content. And also, it makes us feel really encouraged to do more of this stuff. Bye for now.